I mean, you're sort of talking about miraculous events like the resurrection or miracles. I mean, I would be more convinced by sort of, well, I don't know really, because I mean,
it's hard to define morality.
The Muslims were trying to tell me that apparently no one can produce a verse of the Quran that's as good as a verse of the Quran.
I'm telling you,
which sounds a bit silly to me.
Okay, just a moment, guys, you're good and loud and everything, but could you just slightly, thanks a lot. It's just getting in my ears and I couldn't. So yes, you can't produce a verse of the Quran like it, and couldn't produce a verse that's like a verse of the Quran.
Yeah, I think they call it the miracle of inimitability or something. You can't imitate it, which I thought is a bit, because I'm sure someone's produced verses of poetry in Arabic that sound like the Quran, and when I put that to them, and I said to them, well, the person who's judging it is going to be a Muslim, so obviously he's not going to say, well, that sounds a bit like the Quran.
And he's got to be an Arab Muslim as well, or a person who's fluent in Arabic.
Yeah, so
the field is narrow.
And they said there's no contradictions in the Quran, which I mean, I think there's contradictions in every holy book, including the Bible, including any book. So,
well, let's look at those two issues. Pity Muslims not round here at the moment, but no doubt they'll appear another day and we'll end up going through this man to man, face to face, toe to toe.
Are those the arguments they've used with you?
Yes.
The same two.
Oh yes. Okay. Now take the inimitability argument. Well, there's a fluent.
Sorry, there was another. Sorry to interrupt.
That's right.
There was another one. They said there's a fellow called Abu something in the Quran, and it's prophesied in the Quran that he would never convert to Islam. And as it turns out, he didn't convert to Islam. And so they say that's proof that he was sort of against the Prophet or something. And I thought to myself, well, that's a bit silly, isn't it? Because it's like, what's the word? Self-referential? Would you call it?
Well, I'd call it, if everybody used that as a proof, every religion would be true. I mean, to prophesy somebody won't convert, and then they don't convert, and that's an accurate prophecy. My God, I tell you, if I had a penny for every time I could do that kind of prophecy, I'd be a rich man.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to inimitability. Yeah. It's a bit crazy, but inimitability. There's a fluent Arabic speaker called Ali Dashti. He wrote a book called 13 Days. I've got that, and he in there says the Quran is full of grammatical errors. It's stylistically problematic, and it really isn't what the Muslims claim in terms of beauty. That's just one guy. But I think the problem is we are looking at something, you've basically said it, subjective analysis is not really a way of moving forward to establish whether something is true or not. What you find beautiful, I might not find beautiful. For example, when Muslims recite the Quran, some of them get really emotional about it, but it moves me not at all, because I've been brought up on the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. My brain was wired musically differently, so I could find that stuff beautiful if I was raised in that. Even if I'd stayed a complete Roman Catholic, I might have loved the Muezzin call. It's just kind of like psychological stuff. This doesn't prove anything. So beauty is a problem we have to put to one side, and we can't really use it as probative of anything.
I don't know why I didn't take them up on that more. I should have done. I was just listening to them.
Especially when it's a key probative point they try to use to show the Quran to be valid. And the other one was the lack of contradictions in the Quran. Well, I mean, one can say that, but
I'm sure you can pick out a dozen of them.
You can pick up many. The different accounts of the creation of the world, the numbers of days and the order in which things are created. It's well known that they are out of order in that respect. And where the baby comes from, where the male sperm comes from, the backbone. I mean, it doesn't look cool. Not in any animal, not any mammal.
And there's something about the sun.
Never mind men. And in chapter Surah 18, ayah 86, the sun sets in a
pool of muddy water.
Yeah. Now, I don't know about you. I mean, when you look at the sun, it looks like a 10 pence disc, right? Yeah. Size. But we're apparently told it's not that size. It's very, very big and very, very far away. Now, of course, the scientists could be wrong. I was reading some Muslim interacting with somebody about this, and he did in the end say, well, scientists could be wrong. But I mean,
I think what they were thinking of is maybe the sun setting, and in a desert you would maybe see a sort of a mirage, and it would look like it was setting in a pool of muddy water, perhaps.
Now,
to the casual observer.
yeah. Now, we have to put mirage to one side because a mirage is a mirage. It's not actually a body of water. So one would look at a pool of water. One cannot see the sun setting in it, because visually it's just not possible to. What you could do when you look at the ocean, because it's so big, or the sea, if it goes across the horizon and the sun comes down, from your vantage point, the sun could be setting in the sea or the ocean. But that's not a muddy spring, that's the sea or the ocean. And of course it then set, and this is Allah saying this happens. So what we have, I think, is Allah, or rather the writer who's presenting us, Allah, thinks really the sun is a small disk in the sky, not very far away, that sets. You might not see the muddy spring in which it sets, but it's small enough to set in one. And so naturally you logically deduce from your observations that it sets somewhere. It's either going to set flat on the ground, somewhere over that way, or it's going to set in water.
If it's the size of a 10-pence piece, it could probably fit in one of the puddles here.
Well, you probably wouldn't say it would set in the ground because then it's wedged in the ground. So how's it going to rise again or whatever? But you know, if you're smart, you'll say it sets in water, and it doesn't have to be a very big body of water because you're observing as a 7th century Arab. Now, given that the sun is 93 million miles away, is vastly bigger than the Earth.
They didn't know that back then, though.
No, and to our benefit, they didn't know it. And to our benefit, I think God allows these things to go in false books so that we can see it cannot be true. And that's one of the absurdities of that text.